Welcome. It was special in the SU1 cup of coffee with yours truly, Adrian H. Dragan. We're gonna rock and roll tango, beginning the dancing goddess and the Dragon Kingdom with a special cup of coffee. Put a little bit of honey, thanks to my anonymous sister's donation. We are going to rock and roll, train the brain. Yours truly, Adrian H. Dragon, living proof of neuroplasticity by action and parallel with acquired 7 syndrome. Yours truly, living proof of neuroplasticity by action coupled with acquired 7 syndrome, living proof of acquired 7 syndrome and neuroplasticity by action. It is hot, more than 25 degrees, so we're gonna be putting some sunscreen. I am auctioning this special shirt, which was gifted by yours truly to yours truly, my sister, a few years ago. Have marched tens of thousands, maybe of kilometers, did hundreds, tens of thousands of push-ups in it, squats, hawks, worked out, train, exercise. It has a little bit of stains here and there, and we'll auction it for a million. PayPal only will bless it so that you also do a million push-ups, a million squats, a million hawks with it if you thus acquire the auction at a million. This special Spartan race shirt, and which we're gonna take off right now. Since it is HOT, hot, gonna put the hairnet on the hair. And we're gonna rock and roll. We are starting the week. It is past 3:33 p.m. in the EST. It is past 3:33 in the p.m. in the EST. It is past 3:33 in the p.m. in the EST in Hawk Island, Montreal. Yours truly, Adrian Hunter Dragon. Androgynous, pansexual founder of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom. Yours truly, independent artist, independent athlete, independent activist, world peace advocate, geopolitical analyst, and theorist, philosopher, poet, and the world's greatest living dancing millennial rainbow poet with some brain and some muscle, Working out, training, exercising has been, is, and will be medicine and therapy for yours truly, as I believe it is for many. Do encourage mass and call for the mass financing of through a public-private partnership with the Dragan Army, the International Citizen Integrated Social Security and Service Force, which I'm calling to be established and integrated with all existing public and private institutions, binational, first binational in the collective North American civilization, right here from Hawk Island, Montreal. Yours truly, many past lives, many incarnations. Born twice in the USA, as a matter of fact, 156 years ago, Dawei, 718 miles south of Hawk Island, Montreal, served in the US Army. We are gonna apply some sunscreen lotion because it is HOT, and the sun will be burning for these next 93 minutes on yours truly, Eden Hana Dragon. The sun will be shining on yours truly, Eden Hana Dragon, for the next 93 minutes. The sun will be shining on yours truly, Eden Hana Dragon. Artist, activist, athlete, poet, philosopher, world's greatest geopolitical analyst and theorist, who's not perfect, far from it, do not play it self-righteous, do have issues, get moody, get upset. Channel the aggression, my brothers and sisters. Sublimate, channel the aggression. Channeling and sublimating forces with XYZ is key words of my philosophy to be put in action, and my own healing and transformation required action. Action is required in balance with the mind, the intellectual, the academic, as we need balance and harmony, equilibrium between the emotional and the irrational and the subconscious and the logic and action and mathematics. So I could spit tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of fancy phrases, sophisticated philosophical technical jargon, and for example, if I do not work out, train, exercise myself and only call for the mass financing thereof, which I do and have been and am calling as working out, training, exercising has been, is, and will be medicine and therapy for yours truly, and I believe it is for many. That's why I have been, am, and will advocate for the mass financing of people to work out, to train, and to exercise, as it has been, is, and will be my medicine of choices. I'm of course challenging the multimillionaires in the patriarchal sports leagues. I say patriarchal because there's not even one women's sports league, which makes even close economically, financially, commercially to what the aforementioned NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association. MLB make, in which yours truly, of course, is an independent athlete, financially struggling, admit and broke, but my workouts are a goal. Challenging the multi-millionaire athletes to try do my workouts, push up for push up, squat for squat, hawk for squat, hawk, marching step for marching step. If they can, they gotta give a third. For the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom, and for food security, please increase in hygiene in public, increase in hygiene in public. Wash your hands with soap or sanitizer. When you step outside of your private room, office, house, whatever it is, there's an added dimension of responsibilities. There's an added obligation, of course, of duties, responsibilities when we step outside of our private domain. I could have stayed at home, private domain, and not begin the Dancing Goddess in the Dragon week, which begins, of course, at 3 p.m. EST on Sunday after the Sabbath. And of course, the Sabbath is ending now as I'm speaking, doing this meditation, this coffee in the sun. I'm gonna do some readings on important figures of the world today, world leaders of today. We're gonna do some reading on Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, and Alexander Dugin in about a few minutes before I say my intro. Call to all as I am calling toward to support the mission, vision, and philosophy of the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom, which yours truly is the androgynous pansexual founder thereof. I am, of course, calling for and advocating, of course, the mass financing of my brothers and sisters across the collective North American civilization to work out, to train, and to exercise. It is, has been, is, and will continue to be medicine and therapy for me, as I believe it is for many, and have been my fitness journey, who lost more than 77 pounds. Working out, training, exercising has been, is, and will continue to be medicine and therapy for me, as I believe it is for many. That's why I have been, am, and will continue to advocate for it, for the mass financing of my brothers and sisters to work out, to train, and to exercise. And of course, via public-private partnership with the Dragon Army and Concordium, the mass finance, working out, training, and exercise. And I'm calling all willingly loving to support the implementation of my trinity of theories: the citizen integration theory, debt fusion theory, and democratic fusion theory. That trinity of theories, which I've written over many years: the citizen integration theory, debt fusion theory, democratic fusion theory, the trinity of theories, which I've written over the past years. I believe, with all the imperfections and the vices and the issues and the flaws of character that do have, I believe at this point in time the implementation of my trinity of theories, as a geopolitical analyst and theorist, as a philosopher, as a world peace advocate, I believe that the implementation of my trinity of theories is best at this point in time for the creation of the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions to be created first across the collective North American civilization, across the North American collective civilization and beyond. The implementation of the citizen integration theory, debt fusion theory, democratic fusion theory, in order to create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions of the International Citizen Integrated Social Security and Service Force, aka the Dragon Army, with the International Integrated Dance League, aka the Dancing Goddess Army, the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions for the 21st century, to be integrated with all existing public and private organizations and institutions in order, of course, to secure the three essential elements of civilization: food, housing, and transport. Food, housing, and transport. Food, housing, and transport. After secure the three aforementioned essential elements of civilization, to ensure the fourth dimension: services by the Dragon Army, to be for service and security. Services with consent and hygiene, mutual understanding, and LOVO. Services to be on the table: consent and hygiene, mutual understanding and love, and of course with the principle that harm none, with the harm none principle. All services with consent and hygiene, mutual understanding and love, and principle that harm none. All services to be offered by the Dragon Army with accounting, so that there's no abuse. You can't ask for 3 massages a day. As a matter of fact, I'm a bit upset that cannot afford my massage therapy session, asking for Tom Brady to come give yours truly, Dragon Zero, a good neck rub, a good massage with rapping and rating. We're gonna rate him with rapping. I'm gonna rap and rate Tom Brady's hand game. Rap and rate Tom Brady's hand game. Multi-millionaire athletes, be grateful to the farm, because everybody gotta eat. Everybody gotta eat. Everybody gotta eat. And I'm gonna say my grateful, thankful. Love you, kiss you, hug you, farmers, 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 love you, kiss you, hug you, truckers, 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 love you, kiss you, hug you, daycare workers, love you, kiss you, hug you, bus drivers, love you, kiss you, hug you, nurses, love you, kiss you, hug you, doctors, love you, kiss you, hug you, butchers, love you, kiss you, hug you, bakers and butchers, love you, kiss you, hug you, sanitation workers, love you, kiss you, hug you, warehouse workers, love you, kiss you, hug you, construction workers, love you, kiss you, hug you, workers of Hydro Quebec, who in the past, present, of course, have built and in the present maintaining the 63 dams, with which I'm doing this video with a clean, renewable, zero-emission energy. So to the workers of the collective North American civilization, those who are now millionaires, and if you make a million on the stock market or have a million, please donate 10% to food security, LGBTQ youth, support for the environment, and make an offer for yours truly, shorts, and this mug cup of coffee. As I'm gonna be grateful, thankful to see this cup of coffee doing a meditation on it. I don't know where the coffee came from. I can say X, Y, Z, East, West, North, South, or probably South, Central America, somewhere in Guatemala, Honduras, or even, of course, in South America, somewhere from Colombia, maybe even Brazil. It's not stated on the label, but of course, I do know for sure 100% that all fruits, vegetables, and legumes are made, created, and produced, and grain are made, created, and produced by the dance of the goddess with her brother the sun. All the fruits, all the vegetables, all the legumes, all the grain is initially made, created, and produced by the dance of the goddess with her brother the sun. That our brothers and sisters, farmers, love you, kiss you, hug you, harvest for us to make, upgrade, or maintain civilization. Hopefully, maintain and if not upgrade civilization by working to channel the aggression, sublimate the aggressions to work for world peace and to cooperate more, be less selfish. I admit I have some selfishness in me. I'm not perfect, floating on the clouds as a universal spiritual teaching student. I do have lusts, I do have issues, I do have moody, get upset, triggered, moody, XYZ. I do admit that at some things I am mediocre. I do admit that at some things I am average. I do admit that some things I am so. Admitting all these openly that. And as a matter of fact, CSIS, RCMP, do not hack me. I watched a little bit of pornography early during the Sabbath, but since for the past weeks and months I have established that I'm only gonna watch adult movies during the Sabbath. I watched a little bit, I fantasized a little bit, masturbate a little bit. So don't hack me, CSIS, CIA, NSA. I watched a little bit of androgynous pansexual if you want to know. For my willingly loving allies and armies, kisses got. So no need CSIS, Stasi are gone from November 1989. Mossad, Mossad. Y'all got. So this world peace work of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, I'm calling all willingly living to support in any way, capacity, shape, or form that you can. Becoming a volunteer, supporter, an advocate thereof. So today, now I'm gonna say again, thankful, grateful to farmers, love you, kiss you, hug you, farmers, truckers, love you, kiss you, hug you, butchers, bakers, baking butchers, nurses, daycare workers, sanitation workers, workers in sanitation and construction workers, and warehouse workers, and grocery store clerks, and of course those working in the docks, operating in the docks, love you, kiss you, hug you, all workers that work in sanitation, construction, even in cleaning workers, farmers, so important, the importance of food. Food, food is so sacred and so holy, so divine, and all the motto of the Dancing Goddess is the Dancing Goddess Army, officially the international integrated dance league that I'm calling the creation thereof, a public-private partnership. The motto is all fruits, vegetables, and legumes are made, created, and produced by the dance, the goddess with her brother the sun, that our brothers and sisters, farmers, harvest for us to make, upgrade, or maintain civilization. We build, maintain, or upgrade civilization. We build, maintain, or upgrade civilization. We build, maintain, or upgrade civilization thereof by those fruits, vegetables, and legumes, and the grain that is produced by the dance of the goddess with her brother the sun. Say Mother Nature, planet Earth, but the fact remains that the golden sunlight and now sunlight is being shed on all the countries, on Canada coast to coast, on United States coast to coast, on Mexico coast to coast, east, west, north, south, Canada coast to coast, on Mexico coast to coast, on Guatemala, on Honduras, on Ecuador, on El Salvador, on Panama, on Costa Rica, on Colombia, Colombia, Venezuela, Bolivia, Peru, Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay, the Suriname, the Guyana, Brazil. So all the countries, because now is 3:50, 3:50 p.m. right in the EST, 3:50 p.m. in the EST, 3:50 p.m. in the EST. That means that in the west, which is that way, in the west, which is that way, 3 hours ahead. That means we subtract 3 hours and it's 12:50, 12:50. So we subtract 3 hours in the west coast, in the Columbia, British Columbia, and Vancouver, and of course in Seattle, Washington State, and state of California, San Francisco, LA, state of California, and San Francisco, LA. We subtract 3 hours for the west coast of North America, and it's only 12, so it's only noon. They're gonna get even more sun than we are gonna get until sunset at 8 p.m. This Hawk Island on the EST is being 3:52 now p.m. in the EST in the afternoon, beginning the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdoms week, which begins after 3 p.m. on Sunday. I'm gonna begin with this meditation, special stretching in the sun. Yours truly, as we're gonna read about Xi Jinping. We're gonna read about Xi Jinping. We're gonna read about Putin, and we're gonna read about Alexander Dugin. Three important figures to know as the geopolitical events unfolding, and I'm gonna make an intersection and intersect my geopolitical analysis, which dates back to 2019. That is, went hand in hand with myself being on a fitness journey as an independent fitness captain, coupled with an independent geopolitical analyst and theorist. Concording those two elements together, being an independent fitness captain and being an independent geopolitical analyst and theorist, back in 2019 have sounded the alarm already. In 2019, I said, brothers and sisters, we are again on a path towards another international conflagration, and so made, created, and produced the General War Integrated Full Body Training System, aka the Dragan Army Workout, aka the 300 workout, designed to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario, which in a nearly paradoxical parallel way predates COVID by 93 days, because I've started it in October 2019, predates COVID, and it predates the current Russia-Ukraine crisis, which is the biggest conflict, war in Europe since the Second World War. And closer now with the crisis in the Taiwan, to understand it. I think the two leaders leading those powers, as I am, of course, calling all willingly living to support the Dragan Zero World Peace Summit. Dragan Zero World Peace Summit. Calling all willingly living to support the Dragan Zero World Peace Summit. Meet at the corner of Sherbrooke and University and go around the Belmont Royal March for a few hours for world peace. Live stream, Facebook, Instagram, XYZ radio, television, live stream, and discuss the implementation of my trinity of theories: citizen integration theory, debt refusion theory, democratic fusion theory for a new world order of world peace, international justice secured, and ensure global freedom, and to that attaining harmony between civilization and nature, as with all the imperfections that I have, the lust, the issues, the vices, which I openly admit. I'm not perfect, far from it. Sometimes I crave a better, some wine, some whiskey, which cannot afford. I've been craving all COVID, a good massage therapy session, cannot afford it. I'm broke, I admit, but my work is gold. As a matter of fact, starting my new CV, curriculum vitae, simple. Adrian H. Dragan died during COVID, being reborn Adrian Hana Dragan. Put in more physical, philosophical, artistic, and spiritual work than all the leaders of the free world combined during COVID. I've put in more spiritual, artistic, philosophical, and physical work than all the leaders of the free world combined during COVID. Yours truly, androgynous, pansexual Adrian Hana Dragan, founder of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, with some brain and some muscle, not perfect, far from it, with issues, lust, and vices. I put in more philosophical, artistic, physical, and spiritual work than all the leaders of the free world combined during COVID. And in parallel to that, marched in steel-toe boots more than all the generals of NATO combined during COVID. In parallel to that, marched more than the generals of NATO combined in steel-toe boots during COVID. Marched more than all the generals of NATO combined in steel-toe boots during COVID. I am a world peace advocate. I admit that we have aggression. I have aggression, especially when I rap. When I rap with a zigzag in the sun, let me see you twerking for world peace. What you gonna do for world peace? What are you gonna do for world peace? What are we gonna do for world peace? Or we can march, run, jog, clean, cook, Kisses got money down. Got 718 trillions of kisses. I'm founding the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom via with kisses. Kisses is credited from the goddess of heavens above, beautiful blue sky, stars, stars, stars. Sent one kiss, and that kiss turned into 718 trillions of kisses, which credited to yours truly, Don Hana Dragon, with the condition to freely distribute to all my willingly loving allies and armies. So can make all my willingly loving allies and armies pledge your allegiance, legions, pledge your allegiance, legions, pledge your allegiance, legions. Can make all of you kiss millionaires. Because kisses got. So we're gonna do some reading. We're gonna do some reading. We're gonna do some reading again. I wanna say a thank you. Thank you, kiss you, love you, hug you, farmers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, hug you, truckers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, hug you, butchers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, hug you, bakers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, hug you, sanitation workers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, hug you, construction workers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, construction workers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, construction workers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, warehouse workers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, bus drivers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, train conductors. Thank you, love you, kiss you, pilots. Thank you, love you, kiss you, all cooks. Even now, those across this collective North American civilization, how many are making a cup of coffee? How many are making a cheeseburger? How many are making a sandwich? How many are making a bagel? How many are making a salad? Fries. Thank you, east, west, north, south of Hawk Island, Montreal, because I am a Montrealer, Quebecer, Canadian, North American, World LGBTQ, Rainbow Nation across nations unite, Rainbow Nation across nations unite, Rainbow Nations across nations unite. I am a Montreal, Quebec, North American with flaws. I fight my own battles. I do fight my own battles, So if anybody want a duo for XYZ reason, we can tango, dance battle, freestyle, rap battle, or we can, of course, put gloves and go on the field with some hot, some football. Dragan Zero, founding general of the dancing goddess and the dragon army. Dragan Zero, fight my own battles. Priestess of the goddess, what you wanna kiss him? Dragan Zero, I fight my own battles. Not perfect, far from it. And now we're gonna say one more time. Grateful, thankful that my rent is paid. Grateful, thankful that my rent is paid in full for August. Grateful, thankful that my electricity bill is paid in full. Grateful, thankful that my rent is paid in full. Grateful, thankful that my electricity bill is paid in full and got food, got this cup of coffee, and we're gonna do some. Grateful for the moment, I'm gonna play it, seize the day, carpe diem, do. As we're gonna engage in some reading. Gonna try to engage in some. Gonna read about I'm gonna be doing some reading about Xi Jinping. We're gonna be doing some reading about Vladimir Putin, and we're gonna do some reading about Alexander Dugin. And once again, before I do proceed with this reading, I do wanna, of course, say, and utter that I am grateful, thankful that my rent is paid. I'm grateful, thankful that my electricity bill is paid in full. I'm grateful, thankful for this cup of coffee. I'm, of course, thank you, love you, kiss you, hug you, sending thanks to the farmers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, truckers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, butchers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, bakers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, grocery store clerks. Thank you, love you, kiss you, warehouse workers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, warehouse workers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, dock workers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, sanitation workers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, cleaning workers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, construction workers. Thank you, love you, kiss you, butchers, bakers, baking butchers, all cooks. The bus drivers, thank you, love you, kiss you. The train conductors, thank you, love you, kiss you. As well with the pilots, thank you, love you, kiss you. All general workers of the collective North American civilization. And this reading is dedicated to all my willing, loving allies and armies who's going to train the mind and the body. Vladimir Putin. Before to proceed, I'll say that if I want to say a Wikipedia article about me, it's gonna be Adrian H. Bourne died during COVID. Simple. Androgynous pansexual founder of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, of the Phoenix People's Party, of the Global Dragon Union, calling all willingly loving and put in more work, physical, spiritual, artistic, and philosophic work than all the leaders of the free world combined during COVID. That's keep it simple for my Wikipedia article. Said Adrian Hanna Dragon put in more physical, spiritual, psychological, physical, artistic work than all the leaders of the free world combined during COVID. Put in more work for spiritual, psychological nature than all the leaders of the free world combined during COVID. Vladimir Putin. Is a Russian politician and former intelligence officer who has been serving as the president of Russia since 2012, having previously served between 2000 and 2008. And he was the prime minister of Russia from 1999 to 2000 and again from 2008 to 2012. Putin worked as a KGB foreign intelligence officer for 16 years, rising to the rank of lieutenant colonel before resigning in 1991 to begin a political career in St. Petersburg. He moved to Moscow in 1996 to join the administration of President Boris Yeltsin. He briefly served as the director of the FSB, Federal Security Service, and Secretary of the Security Council, before being appointed as Prime Minister in August 1999. After the resignation of Yeltsin, Putin became acting president in less than 4 months, correction. Less than 4 months later, 4 months later, was elected outright to his first term as president. He was re-elected in 2004, as he was constitutionally limited to 2 consecutive terms as president at the time. Putin served as prime minister again from 2008 to 2012 under Dmitry Medvedev. He returned to the presidency in 2012 in an election marred by allegations of fraud and protest, and was re-elected in 2018. In April 2021, following a referendum, he signed into law constitutional amendments, including one that would allow him to run for re-election twice more, potentially extending his presidency to 2036. During his first tenure as president, the Russian economy grew on average by 7% per year, following economic reforms and a 5-fold increase in the price of oil and gas. He also led Russia during a war against Chechen separatists, re-establishing federal control of the region. As prime minister under Medvedev, he oversaw a war against Georgia as well as military and police reform. During his third term as president, Russia annexed Crimea and sponsored a war in eastern Ukraine, with several military incursions made, resulting in international sanctions and a financial crisis in Russia. He also ordered a military intervention in Syria against rebel and jihadi groups. During his fourth term as president, he presided over a military buildup on the border of Ukraine. Putin falsely accused the Ukrainian government of committing atrocities against its Russian-speaking minority, and in February 2022 of this year, 2022, he ordered a full-scale invasion of the country, leading to widespread international condemnation as well as expanded sanctions, and called for Putin to be pursued with war crime charges. Under Putin's leadership, Russia has experienced democratic backsliding and a shift to authoritarianism. Under Putin's leadership, Russia has experienced democratic backsliding and a shift to authoritarianism. Under Putin's leadership, Russia has experienced democratic backsliding and a shift to authoritarianism. Putin's rule has been characterized by endemic corruption, the jailing and repression of political opponents, the intimidation and suppression of independent media in Russia, human rights violations, and a lack of free and fair elections. Putin's Russia has scored poorly on Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index, The Economist Intelligence Unit's Democracy Index, and Freedom's House Freedom in the World Index. Putin is the second longest currently serving European president after Alexander Lukashenko of Belarus. Putin was born on October 7th, from what we know, 1952 in Leningrad, Soviet Union, the youngest of the three children of Vladimir Putin and Maria Ivana Putin. His grandfather, Spiridon Putin, was a personal cook to Vladimir Lenin and Joseph Stalin. Putin's birth was preceded by deaths of Albert, KGB career, education. Putin studied law at the Leningrad State University named after Andrei Zhvanov in 1970 and graduated in 1975. His thesis was on the most favored trading nation principle in international law. His thesis was on the most favored nation trading principle in international law. His thesis was on the most favored nation trading principle in international law. While there, he was required to join the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, CSU. Communist Party of the Soviet Union and remained a member until it ceased to exist in 1991. Putin met Anatoly Sobchak, an assistant professor who taught business law, and who later became the co-author of the Russian Constitution and of corruption schemes in France. Putin would be influential in Sobchak's career in St. Petersburg, and Sobchak Sobchak. Sobchak would be influential in Putin's career in Moscow. In 1975, Putin joined the KGB and trained at the 401st KGB school in Okhtal, Leningrad. After training, he worked in the 2nd Chief Directorate, Counterintelligence, before he was transferred to the 1st Chief Directorate, where he monitored foreigners and consular officials in Leningrad. In September 1984, Putin was sent to Moscow for further training at the Yuri Andropov Red Banner Institute. Multiple reports have suggested Putin was sent by the KGB to New Zealand, allegedly working for some time undercover as, among at least one other alias, a beta shoe salesman in central Wellington. From 1985 to 1990, he served in Dresden, East Germany, using a cover identity as a translator. From 1985 to 1990, he served in Dresden, East Germany, using a cover identity as a translator. From 1985 to 1990, he served in Dresden, East Germany, using a cover identity as a translator. Unlike Putin's presence in East Germany, his time in New Zealand has never been confirmed by Russian security forces. but corroborated through New Zealand eyewitnesses' accounts and government records. Former Wellington City Mayor Bob Harvey and Prime Minister during the 1980s David Lange both alleged that Putin served in both Wellington and Auckland. Putin and his colleagues were reduced mainly to collecting press clippings, thus contributing to the mountains of useless information produced by the KGB. Putin and his colleagues were reduced mainly to collecting press clippings, thus contributing to the mountains of useless information produced by the KGB. Putin and his colleagues were reduced mainly to collecting press clippings, thus contributing to the mountains of useless information produced by the KGB. Russian-American Masha Gessen wrote in their 2012 biography of Putin. His work was also downplayed by former Stasi spy chief Marcus Wolf. His work was also downplayed by former Stasi spy chief Marcus Wolf. His work was also downplayed by former Stasi spy chief Marcus Wolf and Putin's former KGB colleague Vladimir Sotev. Journalist Catherine Belton wrote in 2020 that this downplaying was actually cover for Putin's involvement in KGB coordination and support for the terrorist Red Army faction, whose members frequently hid in East Germany. And with the support of the Stasi, Dresden was referred as a marginal town with only a small presence in Western intelligence services, according to an anonymous source. According to an anonymous source, a former RAF member at one of these meetings in Dresden, the militants presented Putin with a list of weapons that were later delivered to the RAF in West Germany. Klaus Zuckel, who claimed to be recruited by Putin, said that Putin handled a neo-Nazi, Rainer Sonntag, and attempted to recruit an author of a study on poisons. Putin reportedly met Germans to be recruited for wireless communications affairs together with an interpreter. He was involved in wireless communications technologies in Southeast Asia due to trips of German engineers recruited by him there and to the West. According to Putin's official biography, during the fall of the Berlin Wall that began on November 9, 1989, he saved the files of the Soviet Cultural Center, House of Friendship, and of the KGB villa in Dresden for the official authorities of the would-be United Germany to prevent demonstrators, including KGB and Stasi agents, from obtaining and destroying them. He then supposedly burned only the KGB files. In a few hours, he saved the archives of the Soviet Cultural Center for the German authorities. Nothing is told about the selection criteria during this burning, for example, concerning Stasi files or about files or other agencies of the German Democratic Republic of the USSR. He explained that many documents were left to Germany only because the furnace burst, but many documents of the KGB villa were sent to Moscow. After the collapse of the communist East German government, Putin was to resign from active KGB service because of suspicions aroused regarding his loyalty during the demonstrations in Dresden and earlier. Though the KGB and the Soviet Army still operated in East Germany, he returned to Leningrad in early 1990 as a member of the active reserves, where he worked for about 3 months with the International Affairs section of Leningrad State University, reporting to Vice Rector Yuri Mokaev while working on his doctoral dissertation. There he looked for new KGB recruits, watched the student body, and renewed his friendship with his former professor Anatoly Sobchak, soon to be the mayor of Leningrad. Putin claims that he resigned with the rank of lieutenant colonel on August 20th, 1991, on the second day of the 1991 Soviet coup d'etat attempt against the Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev. Putin said, "As soon as the coup began, I immediately decided which side I was on," although he noted that the choice was hard because he had spent the best part of his life with the organs. In 1999, Putin described communism as a blind alley far away from the mainstream of civilization. In 1999, Putin described communism as a blind alley far away from the mainstream of civilization. In 1999, Putin described communism as a blind alley far away from the mainstream of civilization. Political career. In May 1990, Putin was appointed as an advisor on international affairs to the mayor of Leningrad, Anatoly Sobchak. In 2017 interview with Oliver Stone, the filmmaker, Putin said that he resigned from the KGB in 1991 following the coup against Mikhail Gorbachev, as he did not agree with what had happened and did not want to be part of the intelligence in the new administration. According to Putin's statements in 2018 and 2021, he may have worked as a private taxi driver to earn extra money, or considered such a job. On 28th of June 1991, he became head of the Committee for External Relations of the Mayor's Office, with responsibility for promoting international relations and foreign investments, and registering business ventures. Within a year, Putin was investigated by the City Legislative Council led by Marina Salye. It was concluded that he had understated prices and permitted the export of metals valued at 93 million in exchange for food aid that never arrived. Despite the investigators' recommendation that Putin be fired, Putin remained head of the Committee for External Relations until 1996. From 1994 to 1996, he held several other political and governmental positions in St. Petersburg. In March 1994, Putin was appointed as first deputy chairman of the government of St. Petersburg. In May 1995, he organized the St. Petersburg branch of the pro-government Our Home Russia political party, the Liberal Party of Power, founded by Prime Minister Viktor Kermovin. In 1995, he managed the legislative election campaign for that party, and from 1995 through June 1997, he was leader of the St. Petersburg branch. 1996 to 1999. In June 1996, Sobchak lost his bid for re-election in St. Petersburg, and Putin, who had led his election campaign, resigned from his positions in the city administration. He moved to Moscow and was appointed as deputy chief of the Presidential Property Management Department, headed by Pavel Borodin. He occupied this position until March 1997. He was responsible for its foreign property of the state and organized the transfer of the former assets of the Soviet Union and the CPSU to the Russian Federation. On March 27, 1997, Boris Yeltsin appointed Putin chief deputy of the presidential staff, a post which he retained until May 1998, and chief of the main control directorate of the Presidential Property Management Department until June 1998. His predecessor in the position was executed, and his successor was Nikolai Patrushev, both future prominent politicians and Putin's associates. On April 3, 1997, Putin was promoted to first-class active state counselor of the Russian Federation, the highest federal state civilian service rank. On June 27, 1997, at the St. Petersburg Mining Institute, guided by Rector Vladimir Litvinenko, Putin defended his candidate of science dissertation in economics, titled "A Strategic Planning of Regional Resources Under the Formation of Market Relations." This exemplified the custom in Russia whereby a young rising official would write a scholarly work in mid-career. Putin's thesis was plagiarized. Fellows of the Brookings Institute found that 15 pages were copied from an American textbook. On May 25, 1998, Putin was appointed first deputy chief of the presidential staff for the regions, in succession to Victoria Mitina. On July 15, he was appointed head of the Commission for the Preparation of Agreements on the Delimitation of the Power of the Regions and head of the Federal Center attached to the President, replacing Sergei Shakrai. After Putin's appointment, the Commission completed no such agreements, although during Shakrai's term as the head of the Commission, 46 such agreements had been signed. Later, after becoming president, Putin cancelled all 46 agreements. On July 25, 1998, Yeltsin appointed Putin's director of the Federal Security Service, FSB, the primary intelligence and security organization of the Russian Federation and the successor to the KGB. First premiership. On August 9, 1999, Putin was appointed one of three first deputy prime minister, and later on that day was appointed acting prime minister of the government of the Russian Federation by President Yeltsin. Yeltsin also announced that he wanted to see Putin as his successor. Later on that same day, Putin agreed to run for the presidency. On August 16, The State Duma approved his appointment as prime minister with 233 votes in favor versus 84 against, 17 abstained, while a simple majority of 226 was required, making him Russia's fifth prime minister in fewer than 18 months. On his appointment, few expected Putin, virtually unknown to the general public, virtually unknown to the general public to last any longer than his predecessors. He was initially regarded as a Yeltsin loyalist. Like other prime ministers of Boris Yeltsin, Putin did not choose ministers himself. His cabinet was determined by the presidential administration. Yeltsin's main opponents and would-be successors were already campaigning to replace the ailing president, and he fought hard to prevent Putin's emergence as a potential successor. Following the Russian apartment bombings and the invasion of Dagestan by Mujahideen, including the former KGB agents based in the Chechen Republic of Ikaria, Putin's law and order image and unrelenting approach to the Second Chechen War soon combined to raise his popularity and allowed him to overtake his rivals. While not formally associated with any party, Putin pledged his support to the newly formed Unity Party, which won the second largest percentage of the popular vote, 23.3%, in the December 1999 Duma elections, and in turn supported Putin. 1999 to 2000, acting presidency. On 31st of December 1999, Yeltsin unexpectedly resigned, and according to the Constitution of Russia, Putin became acting president of the Russian Federation. On assuming this role, Putin went on a previously scheduled visit to Russian troops in Chechnya. The first presidential decree that Putin signed on December 31st, 1999 was titled, "On Guarantees for the Former President of the Russian Federation and the Members of His Family." On guarantees for the former president of the Russian Federation and the members of his family. On guarantees for the former president of the Russian Federation and the members of his family. This ensured that corruption charges against the outgoing president and his relatives would not be pursued. This was most notably targeted at the Maybach's bribery case in which Yeltsin's family members were involved. On August 30th, 2000, a criminal investigation number 1823789, in which Putin himself, as a member of the St. Petersburg city government, was one of the suspects, was dropped. On December 30th, 2000, yet another case against the prosecutor general was dropped for lack of evidence, despite thousands of documents having been forwarded by Swiss prosecutors. Despite thousands of documents having been forwarded by Swiss prosecutors. Despite thousands of documents having been forwarded by Swiss prosecutors. On 12th of February 2001, Putin signed a similar federal law which replaced the decree of 1999. A case regarding Putin's alleged corruption in metal exports from 1992 was brought back by Marina Selye, but she was silenced and forced to leave St. Petersburg. While his opponents had been preparing for an election in June 2000, Yeltsin's resignation resulted in the presidential elections being held on May 26, 2000. Putin won the first round with 53% of the vote. 2000-2004, first presidential term. The inauguration of President Putin occurred on 7th of May 2000. He appointed the Minister of Finance, Mikhail Kasyanov, as Prime Minister. The first major challenge to Putin's popularity came in August 2000, when he was criticized for the allegedly mishandling of the Kursk submarine disaster. That criticism was largely because it took several days for Putin to return from vacation, and several more before he visited the scene. Between 2000 and 2004, Putin set about the reconstruction of the impoverished condition of the country, apparently winning a power struggle with the Russian oligarchs, reaching a grand bargain with them. This bargain allowed the oligarchs to maintain most of their powers, in exchange for their explicit support for and alignment with Putin's government. The Moscow theater hostage crisis occurred in October 2002. Many in the Russian press and the international media warned that the deaths of 130 hostages in the Special Forces rescue operation during the crises would severely damage President Putin's popularity. However, shortly after the siege had ended, the Russian president enjoyed record public approval ratings. 83% of Russians declared themselves satisfied with Putin and his handling of the siege. 90, note 93, note 93, note 93. In 2003, a referendum was held in Chechnya, adopting a new constitution which declares that the Republic of Chechnya is part of Russia. On the other hand, the region did acquire autonomy. Chechnya had been gradually stabilized with the establishment of the parliamentary election and a regional government. Throughout the Second Chechen War, Russia severely disabled the Chechen rebel movement. However, sporadic attacks by rebels continued to occur throughout the northern Caucasus. In 2004-2008, second presidential term. On March 14, 2004, Putin was elected to the presidency for a second term, receiving 71% of the vote. The Beslan school shortage crisis took place on 1 to 3rd of September 2004. More than 330 people died, including 186 children. The near 10-year period prior to the rise of Putin after the dissolution of the Soviet rule was a time of upheaval in Russia. In 2005 Kremlin speech, Putin characterized the collapse of the Soviet Union as the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. Putin elaborated, moreover, the epidemic of disintegration infected Russia itself. The country's cradle-to-grave social safety net was gone, and life expectancy declined in the period preceding Putin's rule. 2005, the national priority projects were launched to improve Russia's healthcare, education, housing, and agriculture. The continued criminal prosecution of the wealthiest man in Russia at the time, president of Yukos oil and gas company Mikhail Khodorkovsky, for fraud and tax evasion was seen by the international press as a retaliation for Khodorkovsky's donations to both liberal and communist opponents of the Kremlin. Khodorkovsky was arrested, Yukos was bankrupt, and the company's assets were auctioned at a below-market value, with a large share acquired by the state company Rosneft. The fate of Yukos was seen as a sign of a broader shift of Russia towards a system of state capitalism. This was underscored in July 2014, where shareholders of Yukos were awarded $50 billion in compensation by the Permanent Arbitration Court in Hague. On October 7, 2006, Anna Politkovskaya, a journalist who opposed corruption in the Russian army and in the conduct in Chechnya, was shot in the lobby of the apartment building on Putin's birthday. The death of Politkovskaya triggered international criticism, with accusations that Putin had failed to protect the country's new independent media. Putin himself said that her death caused the government more problems than her writings. In February 2007, the Munich Security Conference, Putin complained about the feeling of insecurity engendered, E-N-G-E-N-D-E-R-E-D, has been fostered or made possible, engendered by the dominant position in geopolitics of the United States, and observed that a former NATO official had made rhetorical promises not to expand into new countries in Eastern Europe. On July 14, 2007, Putin announced that Russia would suspend implementation of its Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe's obligations, effective after 150 days, and suspend its ratification of the Adapted Conventional Armed Forces in Europe Treaty, which treaty was shunned by NATO members, abhorrent Russian withdrawal from Transnistria and the Republic of Georgia. Moscow continued to participate in the Joint Consultative Group because it hoped the dialogue could lead to the creation of an effective new conventional arms control regime in Europe. Russia did specify steps into NATO. 2008-2012 second premiership. Putin was barred from a third consecutive term by the Constitution. First Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev was elected his successor in a power-switching operation on May 8, 2008, only a day after handing of presidency to Medvedev. Putin was appointed Prime Minister of Russia, maintaining his political dominance. Putin has said that overcoming the consequences of the world economic crises was one of the two main achievements of his second premiership. The other was stabilizing the size of Russia's population between 2008 and 2011, following a long period of demographic collapse that began in the 1990s. At the United Russia Congress in Moscow on 24th September 2011, Medvedev officially proposed that Putin stand for the presidency in 2012, an offer Putin accepted. Given United Russia's near total dominance of Russian politics, many observers believed that Putin was assured a third term. The move was expected to see Medvedev stand on the United Russia ticket in the parliamentary elections in December, with a goal of becoming prime minister at the end of his presidential term. After the parliamentary elections on 4th of December 2011, tens of thousands of Russians emerged in protests against alleged electoral fraud, the largest protests in Putin's time. Protesters criticized Putin and United Russia and demanded annulment of the election results. Those protests sparked the fear of a color revolution in society. Putin allegedly organized a number of paramilitary groups loyal to himself and to United Russia Party in the period between 2005 and 2012. 2012-2018. Third presidential term. Third presidential term on September 24, 2011, while speaking at the United Russia Party Congress, Medvedev announced that he would recommend the party nominate Putin as its presidential candidate. He also revealed that the two men had long ago cut a deal to allow Putin to run for president in 2012. This switch was termed by many in the media as Rocky Kora, the Russian term for the chess move castling. On 4th of March 2012, Putin won the 2012 Russian presidential election in the first round with 63.6% of the vote, despite widespread accusations of vote rigging. Opposition groups accused Putin and the United Russia Party of fraud, while efforts to make the elections transparent were publicized, including the usage of webcams in polling stations. The vote was criticized by the Russian opposition and by international observers from the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe for procedural irregularities. Anti-Putin protests took place during and directly after the presidential campaign. The most notorious protest was the Pussy Riot performance on 21st of February and subsequent trial. An estimated 8,000 to 20,000 protesters gathered in Moscow on the 6th of May, when 80 people were injured in confrontations with police and 450 were arrested, with another 120 arrested taking place the following day. Counter-protests of Putin supporters occurred, which culminated in a gathering of an estimated 130,000 supporters at the Lusail Stadium, Russia's largest stadium. Some of the attendees stated that they had been paid to come or forced to come by their employers, or were misled into believing that they were going to attend the folk festival instead. The rally is considered to be the largest in support of Putin to date. The rally is considered to be the largest in support of Putin to date. The largest. The rally is considered to be the largest in support of Putin today. Absorption of Crimea. In February 2014, Russia made several military incursions into the Ukrainian territory. After the Euromaidan protests and the fall of Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, Russian soldiers without insignias took control of strategic positions and infrastructure within the Ukrainian territory of Crimea. Russia then annexed Crimea and Sevastopol in a referendum in which, according to official results, Crimeans voted to join the Russian Federation. Subsequently, demonstrations against Ukrainian Rada legislative actions by pro-Russian groups in the Donbass area of Ukraine escalated into the Russia-Ukrainian war between the Ukrainian government and the Russia-backed separatist forces of the self-declared Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republic. In August 2014, Russian military vehicles crossed the border in several locations in Donetsk Oblast. The incursion by the Russian military was seen by Ukrainian authorities as responsible for the defeat of Ukrainian forces in early September. In October 2014, Putin addressed Russia's security concerns in Sochi and the Valda international discussion groups. In November 2014, the Ukrainian military reported intensive movement of troops and equipment from Russia in the separatist-controlled parts of eastern Ukraine. As of early August 2015, the OSCE observed over 21 such vehicles. 21 such vehicles, marked with the Russian military code for soldiers killed in action. According to the Moscow Times, Russia has tried to intimidate and silence human rights workers discussing Russian soldiers' death in the conflict. In October 2015, the Washington Post reported that Russia had redeployed some of its elite units from Ukraine to Syria in recent weeks to support Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. In December 2015, Putin admitted that Russian military intelligence officers were operating in Ukraine. According to academic Andrei Tsigankov, Tsigankov, many members of the international community assumed that Putin's annexation of Crimea had initiated a completely new kind of Russian foreign policy. Interesting. Russian policy. Intervention in Syria. On 30th of September 2015, President Putin authorized Russian military intervention in the Syrian civil war, following a former request by the Syrian government for military help against rebel and jihadi groups. The Russian military activities consisted of airstrikes, cruise missile strikes, and the use of frontline advisors and Russian special forces against militant groups opposed to the Syrian government, including the Syrian opposition, as well as Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, Al-Nusra Front, Al-Qaeda in the Levant, Tahrir al-Sham, Ahrar al-Sham, and the Army of Conquest. After Putin's announcement on 14th of March 2016 that the mission he had set for the Russian military in Syria had been largely accomplished and ordered the withdrawal of the main part of the Russian forces from Syria, Russian forces deployed in Syria continued to actively operate in support of the Syrian government. Russian forces deployed in Syria continued to actively Syrian government. Russian forces deployed in Syria continue to actively operate in support of the Syrian government. Russia's interference in the 2016 U.S. election. Russia's interference in the 2016 U.S. election. Russia's interference in the 2016 U.S. election. In January 2017, a U.S. intelligence community assessment expressed high confidence that Putin had personally ordered an influence campaign, initially to denigrate Hillary Clinton and to harm her electoral chances and potential presidency, then later developing a clear preference for Donald Trump. Trump consistently denied any Russian interference in the U.S. election, as did Putin in December 2016, March 2017, June 2017, and July 2017. Putin later stated that the interference was theoretically possible and could have been perpetrated by patriotically patriots, patriotically patriotically minded Russian hackers, and on the other hand claimed, on another occasion claimed, not even Russians, but Ukrainians, Tatars, or Jews, but with Russian citizenship, might have been responsible. Other occasion claimed not even Russians, but Ukrainians, Tatars, or Jews, but with Russian citizenship, might have been responsible. Not even Russians, but Ukrainians, Tatars, or Jews, but with Russian citizenship, might have been responsible. In July 2018, the New York Times reported that the CIA had long nurtured a Russian source who eventually rose to a position close to Putin, allowing the source to pass key information in 2016 about Putin's direct involvement. Putin continued similar attempts in the 2020 US presidential election. Gonna auction this piece of hair. Gonna auction this piece of hair for I'm gonna auction this piece of hair for 11,718,418,156. I'm gonna auction this special. I'm gonna auction this hair for 11 billion. I'm gonna auction this hair for 11 billion. I'm auctioning this hair coming from the sacred holy divine mane for 11 billion. For world peace. Putin continued similar attempts in 2020 in US presidential election. 2018 present, fourth presidential term. 2018, Putin won the 2018. I gotta go back. In July 2018, New York Times reported that the CIA had long nurtured a Russian source who eventually rose to a position close to Putin, allowing the source to pass key information in 2016 about Putin's direct involvement. Putin continued similar attempts in 2020's US presidential election. 2018 present, fourth presidential term. Putin won the 2018 Russian presidential election with more than 76% of the vote. His fourth term began on May 7, 2018 and will last until 2024. Putin won the 2018 Russian presidential election with more than 76% of the vote. It's more than two-thirds, 3 out of 4. It's more than three-quarters. That's more than three-quarters, 3 out of 4. Putin won the 2018 Russian presidential election with more than 76% of the vote. His fourth term began on 7 May 2018 and will last until 2024. On the same day, Putin invited Dmitry Medvedev to form a new government. On May 15, 2018, Putin took part in the opening of the movement along the highway section of the Crimean Bridge. On 18 May 2018, Putin signed decrees on the composition of the new government. On 25th of May 2018, Putin announced that he would not run for president in 2024, justifying this in compliance with the Russian constitution. On 14th of June 2018, Putin opened the 21st FIFA World Cup, which took place in Russia for the first time. On October 18, 2018, Putin said Russians will go to heaven as martyrs in an event of a nuclear war, as he would only use nuclear weapons in retaliation. In September 2019, Putin's administration interfered with the results of Russia's nationwide regional elections and manipulated it by eliminating all candidates in the opposition. The event that was aimed at contributing to the ruling party United Russia's victory also contributed to inflicting mass protests for democracy, leading to large-scale arrests and cases of police brutality. On 15th of January 2020, Medvedev and his entire government resigned after Putin's 2020 presidential election address to the Federal Assembly. Putin suggested major constitutional amendments that could extend his political power after presidency. At the same time, on behalf of Putin, he continued to exercise his powers until the formation of a new government. Putin suggested that Medvedev take the newly created post of deputy chairman of the Security Council. On the same day, Putin nominated Mikhail Mishustin, head of the country's federal tax service, for the post of prime minister. The next day, he was confirmed by the State Duma to the post, and appointed prime minister by Putin's decree. This was the first time ever that a prime minister was confirmed without any votes against. On 21st January 2020, Mishustin presented to Putin a draft structure of his cabinet. On the same day, the president signed a decree on the structure of the cabinet and appointed the proposed ministers. COVID-19 pandemic. On March 15, 2020, Putin instructed to form a working group of the State Council to counteract the spread of coronavirus. Putin appointed Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin as the head of the group. On 22nd of March 2020, after a phone call with the Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte, Putin arranged the Russian army to send military medics, special disinfection vehicles, and other medical equipment to Italy, which was the European country hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. On 24th of March 2020, Putin visited a hospital in Moscow's Kommunarka, where patients with coronavirus are kept, where he spoke with them and with doctors. Putin began working remotely from his office in Novo Ogaryoko. According to Dmitry Peskov, Putin passes daily tests for coronavirus, and his health is not in danger. March 25th, President Putin announced in a televised address to the nation that the April 22 constitutional referendum would be postponed due to the coronavirus. He added that the next week would be a nationwide paid holiday and urged Russians to stay at home. Putin also announced a list of measures of social protection, support for small and medium-sized enterprises, and changes in fiscal policy. Putin announced the following: contributions deferring loan repayments for the next 6 months, a 6-month moratorium of fines, debt collection, and creditors' application for bankruptcy of debtors' enterprises. On April 2nd, 2020, Putin again issued an address in which he announced prolongation of the non-working time until April 30th. Putin likened Russia's fight against COVID-19 to Russia's battles with invading Pechnik and Kuma steppe nomads in the 10th and 11th centuries. In the 24th to 37 April Nevada poll, 48% of Russian respondents said that they disapproved of Putin's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, and his strict isolation and lack of leadership during the crisis was widely commented as a sign of losing his strongman image. June 2021, Putin said he was fully vaccinated against the disease with the Sputnik V vaccine, emphasizing that while vaccination should be voluntary, making them mandatory in some professions would slow down the spread of COVID-19. In September, Putin entered self-isolation after people in his inner circle tested positive for the disease. Constitutional referendum and amendments. Putin signed an executive order on 3rd of July 2020 to officially insert amendments into the Russian constitution, allowing him to run for 2 additional 6-year terms. These amendments took effect on 4th of July 2020. Since July 11th, protests have been held in Krai in Russia's Far East in support of arrested regional governor Sergei Furgal. On December 22nd, 2020, Putin signed a bill giving lifetime prosecutorial immunity to Russian ex-presidents. Putin met with the Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi in January 2022 to lay the groundwork for a 20-year deal between the two nations. (2021 to 2022). Russia-Ukrainian crisis and invasion. Following the pro-Western revolution of dignity in Ukraine in 2014, Putin had seized eastern regions of the nation and annexed Crimea. July 2021, Putin published an essay titled "On the Historical Unity of Russians and Ukrainians," in which he states that Belarusians, Ukrainians, and Russians should be in one all-Russian nation as a part of Russian world and our one people, whom forces that have always sought to undermine our unity wanted to divide and rule. The essay denies the existence of Ukraine as an independent nation. The essay denies the existence of Ukraine as an independent nation. The essay denies the existence of Ukraine as an independent nation. In September 2021, Ukraine had conducted military exercises with NATO forces. The Kremlin warned that NATO expanding military infrastructure in Ukraine would cross red lines for Putin. Putin's spokesman Dmitry Peskov denied allegations that Russia was preparing for a possible invasion of Ukraine. On November 30th, 2021, Putin stated that an enlargement of NATO in Ukraine, especially the deployment of any long-range ballistic missiles capable of striking Russian cities or U.S. national missile defense systems similar to those in Romania or in Poland, would be a red line issue for the Kremlin. Putin asked President Joe Biden for legal guarantees that NATO would not expand eastward or put weapons systems that threaten us in close vicinity to Russian territory. The US and NATO have rejected Putin's demands. The US and NATO have rejected Putin's demands. The US and NATO have rejected Putin's demands. The US, United States, and NATO have rejected Putin's demands. The Kremlin repeatedly denied that it had any plans to invade Ukraine. Putin dismissed such fears as alarmist. In December 2021, the Levada Center poll found that about 50% of Russians believed that US and NATO are to blame for the Russo-Ukrainian crisis, while 16% blamed Ukraine and 4% blamed Russia. On February 2nd, 2022 of this year, February 2nd, Putin warned that Ukraine's accession to NATO could embolden Ukraine to reclaim control over Russian annexed Crimea or areas ruled by pro-Russian separatists in Donbass, saying, "Imagine that Ukraine is a NATO member and a military operation to regain Crimea begins. What are we going to fight with NATO? Has anyone thought about this?" 7th of February, Putin said at a joint press conference with French President Emmanuel Macron that a number of Macron's ideas, proposals, and possible as a basis for further steps. "We will do everything to find compromises that suit everyone." Putin promised not to carry out new military initiatives near Ukraine. Putin said in a press conference after the meeting, according to CNN, as for the Minsk agreements, are they alive and do they have any prospect or not? I believe that there is simply no other alternative. I repeat once again, in Kiev, they either say they will comply or they say that this will destroy their country. The incumbent President Zelensky recently stated that he does not like a single point of these Minsk agreements. Like it or not, like it or don't like it, it's your duty, my beauty. They must be fulfilled. It won't work otherwise. On February 22nd, 21st, February 21st, Putin signed a decree recognizing the two self-proclaimed separatist republics in Donbass as independent states and made an address concerning the events in Ukraine. Same day, Putin spoke of the historic strategic mistakes that were made in 1991. The USSR granted sovereignty to other Soviet republics on historically Russian land and called the entire episode truly fatal. He described Ukraine as being turned into the anti-Russia by the West. On 22nd of February, Putin televised the meeting of the Security Council of Russia over the annexation, during which the chief of the SVR, Sergei Narishkin, was seen visibly to tremble while he stuttered uncomfortably. Putin humiliated him publicly for fumbling in his response to the Russian president's questioning. On 23rd of February, Putin in a televised address announced a special military operation in Ukraine. On 23rd of February, Putin in a televised address announced a special military operation in Ukraine, launching a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. On 23rd of February, Putin in a televised address announced a special military operation in Ukraine, launching a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, citing a purpose of denazification. He said the purpose of the operation was to protect the people in the predominantly Russian-speaking region of Donbass, who, according to Putin, for 80 years now, have been facing humiliation and genocide perpetrated by the Kiev regime. Putin said that all responsibility for possible bloodshed would be entirely on the conscience of the regime ruling on the territory of Ukraine. In his speech, Putin said he had no plans to occupy Ukrainian territory, adding, "We are not going to impose anything on anyone by force." On 24th of February, he launched a war to gain control of the remainder of the country and overthrow the elective government under the pretext that it was run by Nazis. Putin's invasion was met with international condemnation. International sanctions were widely imposed against Russia, including against Putin personally. Following an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council on 24th of February, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, "President Putin, in the name of humanity, bring your troops back to Russia." The invasion led to numerous calls for Putin to be pursued with war crime charges. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson suggested Putin could face war crime charges and said that the UK and its allies are working to set up a particular international war crimes tribunal for those involved in war crimes in the Ukraine theater. President Joe Biden said that he believes Putin meets the legal definition of being a war criminal. The International Criminal Court (ICC) stated that it would investigate the possibility of war crimes in Ukraine since late 2013. The United States has pledged to help the ICC to prosecute Putin and others for war crimes committed during the invasion of Ukraine. From Africa, Kenya expressed opposition to Putin's actions and the idea of using force to change borders left behind by collapsing colonial empires. On 3rd of March, the United Nations General Assembly overwhelmingly voted to condemn Russia for the invasion and demanded the withdrawal of Putin's forces. The resolution Yes one was passed by 141 votes to 5, with 35 abstentions. Putin's ally China and India abstained. International reactions to the invasion has given Russia a pariah status, facing increasing international isolation. In response to what Putin called aggressive statements by the West, he put the Strategic Rocket Forces nuclear deterrence units on high alert. In response to what Putin called aggressive statements by the West, he put the Strategic Rocket Forces nuclear deterrence units on high alert. In response to what Putin called aggressive statements by the West, he put the Strategic Rocket Forces nuclear deterrence units on high alert. On high alert. U.S. intelligence agencies determined that Putin was frustrated by slow progress due to the unexpectedly strong Ukrainian defense, directing unusual bursts of anger at his inner circle. On 4th of March, Putin signed into law a bill introducing a prison sentence of up to 15 years for those who publish knowingly false information about the Russian military and its operation, leading to some media outlets in Russia to stop reporting on Ukraine. On 7th of March, as a condition for ending the invasion, the Kremlin demanded Ukraine's neutrality, recognition of Crimea as Russian territory, and recognition of the self-proclaimed republics of Donetsk and Luhansk as independent states. On 16th of March, Putin issued a warning to Russian traders who said the West wanted to use as a fifth column to destroy Russia. He said that Russians should undergo natural and necessary self-cleansing of society to rid themselves of bastards and pro-Western traitors. On 24th of March, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution drafted by Ukraine and its allies which criticized Russia for creating a dire humanitarian situation and demanded aid access as well as the protection of civilians in Ukraine. 140 member states voted in favor, 31 abstained, and 5 voted against the resolution. As early as 25th of March, credible reports were published by the UN Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights that Putin ordered a kidnapping policy whereby Ukrainian nationals did not cooperate with the Russian takeover of their homeland were victimized by FSB agents. The Ukrainian government reported that 400,000 citizens had been forcibly taken to Russia, where some could be sent as far as the Pacific Ocean island of Sakhalin and are being offered jobs on condition they don't leave for 2 years, while the Kremlin, in the person of Colonel General Mikhail Mizintsev, said the relocated people wanted to go to Russia. The mayor of the besieged city of Mariupol compared the kidnappings to the actions of Nazi Germany during the Second World War. On 28th of March, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he was 99.9% sure that Putin thought the Ukrainians would welcome the invading forces with flowers and smiles, while he opened the door to negotiations on the offer that Ukraine would henceforth be a non-aligned state. US and European Union officials believe that Putin had been misinformed by his advisors about Russia's military performance in Ukraine and the effect of sanctions on Russia. On April 11, the Times of London reported that Putin had purged 150 FSB careerists for misinforming him over the invasion, including Fifth Service Chief Sergei Beseda and his deputy. On 27th of April, Putin warned that any countries who create a strategic threat to Russia during the war can expect retaliatory strikes that would be lightning fast. On 14th of May, Putin warned Finland that joining NATO would be a mistake. According to the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, Putin could potentially turn to nuclear weapons if he perceived an existential threat to the Russian state or regime. He could regard a possible defeat in Ukraine as an existential threat to his regime. In May, Putin issued a decree to simplify the process for residents in the Russian-occupied areas of Kherson Oblast and Zaporizhia Oblast to apply for Russian citizenship and Russian passports. On May 16, Putin hosted a CSTO meeting under the glare of the cameras. He failed to convince his fellow leaders that neo-Nazism has long been rampant in the Ukraine, or materially to support his actions there. Putin has repeatedly blamed the West and sanctions on Russia for the emerging global energy and food crises. Putin has repeatedly blamed the West and sanctions on Russia for the emerging global energy and food crises. Putin has repeatedly blamed the West and sanctions on Russia for the emerging global energy and food crises. He denied accusations that his armed forces are blocking Ukrainian grain exports from the Black Sea even while his armed forces bombed the ports of Odessa and Mykolaiv. On 9th of June, on the 350th anniversary of the birth of Peter the Great, Putin described the land that had been conquered by Peter in the Great Northern War against Swedes as land being returned to Russia. He stated that when St. Petersburg was founded on the conquered land, no other countries in Europe recognized it as Russian. He also compared the task facing Russia today to that of Peter's, without explicitly mentioning Ukraine. Faced with significant battlefield losses, in early June, Putin signed a decree that all 86 federal subjects under his command would need to provide at least a battalion for and start the war in Ukraine. That's a fascinating read on Putin and the military, political, geopolitical events. And there's many more on human rights policies, the media, promotion of conservatism and Christian Orthodox values, and Christian Orthodox values. With the Russian Orthodox Church, foreign policy, the post-Soviet states, United States, Western Europe, and NATO relations, special many more to read, to know. And I'll wrap it up by calling for an immediate ceasefire, calling for an immediate ceasefire, and of course the implementation of my trinity of theories, known as the citizen integration theory, debt fusion theory, democratic fusion theory, Trinity theories, CIT, citizen integration theory, DRT, democratic, debt fusion theory, and democratic fusion theory, DFT, CIT, and DRT, debt fusion theory, citizen integration theory, and democratic fusion theory. Yours truly calling all willingly living support. Make love tonight is the main message. Make love tonight is the main message. Make love tonight is the main message.